direct from the web, it's Billy Masters Live. And now, please welcome your host, Billy Masters.
Geez, hold on a second. Hey everyone, it's me, Billy Masters. Sorry, we're having some technical issues here, and I couldn't get on there. Oh my God! Can I just tell you, I'm exhausted. I just got back from Provincetown last night, and I don't know if any of you realize this, but fall is upon us. And I am not thrilled with that. Oh, look, see now in the control booth, they're now putting up the date before I even ask for it. Whatever. Monica's on top of things. She's bucking for a raise. Anyway, hello. Let's just start it the way it should be. This is Billy Masters. Welcome to Billy Masters Live. Today is Tuesday, September 1st, and fall is here. Fall is coming. I'm not happy about it. And, can I just say this? I did a lot of walking and a lot of, freezing in Provincetown. And I'm not, all right, this is going to be the stupidest statement anyone has ever made. I am not as young as I used to be, which of course is ridiculous because who is as young as they used to be? You're just getting older, unless you're Benjamin Button, I suppose. But never let it be said that I didn't say what didn't need to be said, that I am not as young as I used to be. And I got home so early last night from Provincetown, and I'm still exhausted. Oh, and I slept well, and I unpacked, and I prepped for today's show, and I thought I was getting a good night's sleep, and all I want to do is sleep. I'm exhausted, but I know this show will perk me up. Before we get to today's show, let me just tell you, on Thursday, we are having another one of our Dragapalooza shows. With my co-host, we will have Frank DeCaro here, and we have Miss Richfield and Peppermint joining us. So that will be exciting. So that's tomorrow. And then Tuesday, now I'm not sure about this, but oh, look, I've got the green screen hands are back. Well, there you go. That's because I didn't set the lighting because I'm exhausted. I'll just try to keep my hands down. Next Tuesday, maybe not. I spent some time with Marilyn May this weekend in Provincetown. I filmed some footage. I got to look at what I filmed. I got to see how we're going to put it together. I don't think it's enough for a show. I have to figure out who I want to have on the show with the footage of Miss Marilyn May. So, but that might be next Tuesday. We'll see. I'll let you know on Thursday. So I always open with an anecdote from the past. And, this would be really funny if I could do this right on the fly. Because, I did just say I'm not as young as I used to be. And I'm looking at a picture. Okay, good. So, I am a big fan, as you know, of my girl groups, of the Go-Go's and the Bangles, two of my favorite groups. I like Joan Jett too, and Pat Benatar. But I mean, Go-Go's, Bangles, favorites. And I've spent a lot of time with members of both bands. I've hosted them at LA Pride. I've opened for them on the road. And I'm looking now, I'm just babbling because I'm trying to upload a picture that I didn't plan on showing you. So this is a photo of Susanna Hoffs and I in 1996. Okay, that's us in 1996. God, now I'm about to say I look so much better today, but here's a picture of Susanna Hoffs and I together 20 years later. See, don't we both look so much better? Now, wait, can I put them side by side? I can. Okay. Now, look, the one on the left is 20 years before the one on the right. See, I'm actually going backwards in time. So maybe I am younger than I used to be. I don't know. But anyway, so that's Susanna Hoffs, and that wasn't even the story I was going to tell you today. But God, and remember when, oh geez, I got more pictures up. Remember when we used to dress up and go out? You know, in Provincetown this summer, I have to say they've done a great job with at least giving us a little bit of normalcy. And the Crown and Anchor, in particular, Rick Murray, with the assistance of Mark Quitale's artists, they have been doing shows outside by the pool, brought in Marilyn May with Billy Stritch, a combo. She actually had 3 musicians on stage with her, with the winds blowing and music flying all over the place, and gave us a hell of a show. And I just thanked her so much, because if you can go to a show, if you can interact with people, even if you're wearing masks and socially distanced and not eating the nuts that were just put in a bowl in front of you, and you're thinking to yourself, who else's hands were on those nuts? Those are things that you think about in Provincetown. Whose hands have been on those nuts? Or whose mouths have been on those nuts? You don't know where those nuts have been. So I didn't touch the nuts, but I did drink. And I spent time with Marilyn May. And that's what Provincetown is all about. And you know what's going to happen. Today is election day in Massachusetts. Is it election day where you are? Text me if it is. Because I have to get out and vote, even though I'm cold and tired. Do your civic duty, vote. And if you haven't yet, please get a mail-in ballot. If you're not comfortable with voting in the general election, get your mail-in ballot now. Just go online, ask for a mail-in ballot, and send it in. And send it in early, because the post office is a mess. Although I'm getting my mail faster than anybody I know. Anyway. All right, that's it. That's it for me babbling. My guest today is so fascinating. And, you know, he and I were texting yesterday, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, you know, I'd like to have somebody, because usually I like to have 2 guests or maybe even 3 guests to have conversation, especially with somebody I don't know, because I don't know how it's going to go if I have enough to say. Like, I don't ever have enough to say. I could do a 90-minute show by myself. But then I started watching, there's a documentary about Buck Angel, which is called Mr. Angel, a documentary by Dan Hunt. It is so fascinating. It's on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, just go watch it. And then there are interviews with Buck Angel online, everywhere. I have 9 million questions. One of the most interesting people that I've seen in a long time. He presents himself so well. There's so many things he is. He's an activist. He is a transsexual porn star. He is a motivational speaker. He's a writer. He's a film. I mean, he's a producer. He just does everything. And it's so interesting to have him here. And I don't even know where I'm going to begin. So I'm just going to bring him out. Mr. Angel.
That's an awesome introduction, but now I feel like I don't even know what I am.
Pressure's on. But, you know, it's so interesting because you do a lot of things. And so I would think, you know, people love to put people in a box. And I've had this for years. I've been writing a column for 25 years, but I was also doing stand-up and I was a musician. They're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, why can't you do it all? Because they are kind of connected, because they're all part of me. Is that how you, I mean, you have even more parts of you than I have. So, and some spare parts on top of that. So, thank you. So how do you define what you do, and what is your profession? Let's start there.
I mean, gosh, you know, my profession is, I think of myself as a human rights activist and an entrepreneur. So, you know, I started in pornography, but that's not really my game anymore. It is attached to me, but it's not. My focus now is creating products for trans people, a wellness, really health and wellness. And that's including the brain. So, and it's not just trans people. That's why I say human rights. So I'm mostly about trying to create a better space in the world for all of us, not just trans people, but everybody.
Yeah, and I noticed that you're doing a lot of motivational speaking and really sort of speaking to, again, not that narrow box, but really the human condition. And, you know, again, we say this all the time that, you know, gay rights are human rights, trans rights are human rights, Black lives matter, all lives matter. I think that really it's under the umbrella of just taking care of your fellow man or woman.
No, you are 100% there. We have segregated, for a lack of a better word, on some level. Even the LGBT community is that way. And that is not how you make shit happen.
Right.
You make stuff happen by coexisting on a level where we all can play off each other, have different opinions, not agree with each other, but it's okay. It's how the world grows. And I think we're in such a state now where people are so opinionated, but not open to other opinions, or being okay with somebody not having the same opinion as you.
You know, it's interesting because on one of the interviews you were talking about, I was putting it in today's context that we're in this pandemic, that people are so invested in what other people do, and they want to be critical rather than either taking care of themselves or taking care of others. And I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, because I saw so many interviews, you said something that, why does the person down the street care what's in my pants?
Right.
But why does the person down the street care if the woman a mile away gets an abortion?
That's right.
Or, and yet those people also don't care if they wear a mask. So it's so fascinating to me when you think about it that the busybody people are so interested in other people and don't look to themselves to take care of themselves and others.
That's right. Or they point fingers at other people saying your lifestyle affects my lifestyle, or the way you do things is not the way I think things should be done.
Right.
And also overriding voices, or even not just sitting down. Just sit down and listen to what other people have to say. You don't have to agree with it, but to literally not sit down and listen and try to understand what people say is a form of shutting down, and a form of, on some level, I guess, fascism, or pushing people's thought process. And, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with a lot of things in the trans community that are going on today, and that's okay. It doesn't make me anti-trans. It just makes me say I have a different opinion about that.
Well, but that you said something about, segregation in the gay community a minute ago. And I'm guilty of it as well, because as a gay man, I will very often find myself saying, "Oh, gay men don't think like that." Well, how do I know? I mean, I would like to think I speak for my people, but what I should say is not all gay men think like that, because I'm not the same as the next gay man. And so why would I think all trans people think the same, or all Black people, or all women? And I also think that there is a lot of internalized homophobia, that we are harder on our own group, either because we think it reflects on us, or it points things out about us that we're embarrassed of, that we don't want to even acknowledge, that there is ageism, that we don't want to be ugly or fat or old or whatever. And so what we'll do is criticize someone else with those same qualities.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it's every single community. You can see that exact what you said. And I don't care what community you're in, you're going to have that. And it's what I try to teach, or teach what I learned in order to move through the world. I live such a great life. I have nothing to complain about. I live I'm a phenomenal life. It's because I work on my own self and not on you. And so what I try to tell people is, look inside. What's going on? Why do you dislike the way that person says that? Or why are you so mean to somebody? Or why do you expect everyone in the gay community to be this way, or the trans? What does that mean about you? And like really taking control of how you think and why you think, and really listening to what that is, I think is such a great way that we will make change, is looking inward, not outward.
But that's scary for so many people. It really is. I mean, I remember, we're on primary day in Massachusetts, and probably in many other states. And I remember when Hillary ran, the people who were the hardest on her were other women.
That's right.
And yet they'll then complain, why don't we have more representation? And it's, and gay people, we're exactly the same way. If somebody achieves something, well, they're not so fabulous.
Exactly.
So I reckon, it's funny. I have a really good friend of mine who is at a certain level in his career where he's a good middling level, but he sees the people ahead of him. And he will actually say to me, am I criticizing this other person because his quality is not so good? Or am I criticizing him because I'm jealous of what he's achieved? And I'm like, when you can open your eyes and actually be open to that possibility, I think that it is a huge step, because even if you're not jealous of them, you are recognizing that is part of everybody.
Excellent. And that's exactly right. Just looking, could I be racist? Could I be
Right.
sexist? Could I be? And it's not a bad thing to say, possibly I am. It's a bad thing not to acknowledge it. And it's a bad thing I mean, racism is something we all need to acknowledge. White people, black people, Asian, every single person in the world needs to understand, what does that mean? It's very complex. It's not as easy as you're all racist and it's not that easy. And same with homosexuality or transgender or whatever. We need to look at what are the levels, what makes you this way, what does it, and who cares if you want to choose to be a gay person. Nobody has any power over you to make that choice or to do that. Only you have the power to let people have power over you.
That's true. And I think that, if things make you uncomfortable,
Yep.
There are so many reasons why something can make you uncomfortable. Look, I cop to pretty much everything. I will be the first to make a fat joke. And it's because when I gain 10 pounds, I am making it at myself, because I don't want to be that way. But you also don't want to make someone else feel uncomfortable if either they can't lose weight or they're happy like that. Just, if they're happy with the way they look, and there are so many, particularly women, I will see so many women who on Latin television, I love watching my Spanish television. And I'm like, those big girls, the guys love them. They love their curves. And isn't that wonderful that they're embracing who they are? And they don't care if I think, oh my God, look at that big fat pig in spandex. They're like, so what? So you don't like it? No one asked you.
That's right. And you're allowed not to like it, and you're allowed to feel it's this is the thing. If you even say, now you're fat phobic, if you say something about, I don't feel good, fat. Like, I just don't feel that. When I put 10 pounds on, I don't like it. It makes me feel fat. It doesn't mean I'm saying that about you. This is how overly sensitive the conversation has become, and the shutting down of anyone or anything that speaks not against, but a different opinion on that. So now, because I like to exercise and I like to be fit and I like a certain way, does that make me all of a sudden I'm fat phobic?
No, you're a fitness Nazi.
Exactly.
Well, you had said something in one of the interviews that I thought was really, and I think not you personally, but people who are trans have a huge advantage over people, because having been born a biological woman, but also having testosterone and living as a man, you are actually, and again, well, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but you said it, that you're able to think with both sides of your brain, and you can say, I understand the male side and I'm understanding the female side. And what a gift.
Oh my God, I'm telling you, it is more than a gift. I really feel like on some, I hated being a woman. It's because I wasn't supposed to be a woman, but I was supposed to live that life for a while. And I really embraced my female side more than I did when I was female. And that's because now I can walk the world this way and people see me as male. That said, there's a part of this newer generation of trans people who want to erase their past. They call it their dead name. They erase it. As an elder in the trans community, I discourage that tremendously. And I understand the pain. Believe me, I understand the pain of living as a woman. But these kids need to understand that pain can actually be used in a way to make you such a strong person in the world that you can overcome so many. I can pretty much overcome anything. I had a sex change. There is nothing you can throw in my way that will trip me up. I literally changed my body.
Yeah, and you're open about it. I mean, that's the other thing, is that so many people want to either hide something in their past or rewrite. I mean, I remember Oprah had said something, and again, it's not trans related, but it's anybody related, that you can rewrite your past by facing it, acknowledging it, and then you move on. You're not trapped by it. And
that's
and I think that what you're saying is very similar to that. And also the other thing, I think we should say, just because you hated being a female doesn't mean you hate females.
Oh my God, no, I'm a feminist. I'm a hardcore feminist. And because I lived as a woman and I know how hard it is. Today, I live like a king. I'm a white dude. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? Like, just seriously, dude. I'm like, wow. So I'm a Trojan horse. I say it all the time. I literally walk the world with the eyes when I used to be a woman, and I see everything and I hear everything. And I very much support women's rights. Women are
Sure.
nowhere near where they should be in the world still. 30 years ago, I was fighting for women's rights, and it feels like it's in the same space. They are so, I mean, really, you'll never know as a man who was born a man. It is a really fucked up space. Sorry. Am I allowed to be
No,
using those words here?
oh yeah, you can swear. You can, anything goes here. You know, it's wait till the physical exam comes up, then get
Well, I can't wait for that.
and it's also, just like, again, going back to racism, I won't know what it is like to be a Black person or a Latino person or an Asian person. And you're not going to know that either. But you've got an advantage that you really have embraced both sides. And yet you knew that you either shouldn't be or didn't want to be a female. How do you phrase it?
Good question. So I'm 58 years old, and I was born in 1962, and I pretty much grew up like a boy. My parents totally raised me like Buck. It was, tomboy. I was a tomboy back in the day. I was a little masculine girl playing skateboard, army, all that stuff. It wasn't until puberty. My parents totally were chill with it. Puberty, I got boobs, I got my period, all hell broke loose. That was literally the beginning of the downfall for me. I have always felt like a boy. It never varied. My dad said to me the other day, he said, if we would have had the opportunity to help you transition at a younger age, we would have done it. We always
It was a different time.
Yeah, 70s, 80s, man. We barely talked about gay, let alone trans woman to a man. You saw men to women, right? Christine Jorgensen, Renee Richard, all of those people, but we never saw anyone like me. So really, and that's why I embrace, but I always felt this way. Never did I veer. And that's why I never look back. We have a thing today called detransitioners, where there's a lot of youngsters transitioning and realizing it's not for them. Could you imagine if I had to detransition? Look at me.
Oh my God.
I would be the ugliest woman on the face of the earth.
I don't know. Look, somebody will love you. I don't know. But
it would be horrible.
You also, though, what's so fascinating about your story, was it two sisters? How many?
Yes,
how many
I have an older sister and a younger sister. I'm the middle.
So you had two sisters, and your parents, though, treated you differently. They got Barbies, you got G.I. Joes. They weren't forcing an agenda on you. They were really kind of cool about it.
Oh my God, I'm telling you, I have the most awesome parents. Don't make me cry because I work a lot with the youth, and their parents are so lost, and they're freaking out, and their parents don't accept them and kicking them out of the house. And my parents, they did that later on in life, but that's just because I was a messy person and drunk and all fucked up.
Oh, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah, I was horrible, but as a youth, I was not, and my parents really cared about trying to make me a better person. So I'm very lucky that I have parents like that.
How were you in school with kids at that age?
I was alone. So pretty much my whole life, I played with the young boys on the street. I was always playing with boys younger than me. I was like 15 years old playing with like 12-year-old boys on the street because I did not understand girls. And I did not. So when I tried to play with boys my age, they were like, you're a freak, get out of here, you're a girl. So literally, I hadn't had very many friends growing up, and I was always, physically fighting, and I was always sort of like a loner on some level. And it wasn't good. I didn't graduate high school. I did not do good in school. No, I'm not. I am not a graduate. I'm not an academic. I'm self-taught, and I was called a dummy my whole life because I did not do well in school because of being trans, and no one knew how to deal with it back in the day.
I have one of my best friends is a teacher of first grade, and she has had trans students in her class. And I'm so fascinated because, even though I graduated in the late 80s, it's a whole other world. I know that, but I can't picture first grade. And so I've asked her, and there was a boy in kindergarten who was a boy, I don't know, John. And then in first grade, all of a sudden he's Tina, and he's in dresses. And I said, how do the other kids respond to him? And she told me the kids just say, oh, John is now Tina. Okay. And it's like they
Amazing.
just think to themselves that, all right, and it only gets messy when the parents get involved.
That's right. I say it every day. Leave your kid alone. You don't have to medically transition your child at 8 years old. You do not have to do that. Kids know who they are. They'll figure it out. Now, when they get to be 15, now we're talking about some stuff happening. We're talking about
But like
puberty.
you
We're talking about
mentioned,
a
right?
whole other level. But 8, 9, come on. Kids always play with gender. Me and you can totally, every human being on the face of this planet can attest to not knowing who they are at 8. They can say, how are kids of 8 years old knowing the word trans? How are they
Right.
knowing that? That just seems very interesting to me. I never knew the word trans until I was an adult. And so, on
Although
some
there's so
level,
much in the media now,
that's exactly
maybe
right.
they're picking it up.
They
But
are.
I remember I thought when she told me this story, I had a dog that got hit by a car and we were trying to save the leg.
Yeah.
And the vet said to me, you know, the dog does not have the emotional attachment to the leg that you do. The
Yeah.
dog will wake up and say, oh, I guess now I have 3 legs, and that's life. And so
Awesome.
when she told me this, that, children are kind of like that. They're like, oh,
That's
he was a
right.
boy, now he's a girl. Okay.
You got
And,
it.
we put so much energy in either being upset or
Mhm.
hurt or hateful or whatever, when sometimes it's so easy as, oh, I woke up and now I'm a girl. Okay.
That's exactly right. And no one's stressing on it. I went to school looking like a boy, and people were just like, but they had already, known I was a girl. My name was Laura. So it wasn't like, was not, it wasn't like one of those girl boy names like Tracy or something. So, but I dressed like a boy. I totally went to school that way. And like, I got teased, but at the same time, I fought back and I was just that little dude. But today we do have much more things happening. And I think it's important we acknowledge trans kids, but I think we have to also acknowledge medical transitioning is a whole other space we have not enough information about. I mean, I
Right.
was a guinea pig. My doctor actually called me a guinea pig. I had no idea what he was doing 25 years ago.
He probably
So,
didn't have much idea either.
yeah, exactly. And again, today we still are in the same place. We don't have that kind of research for youngsters. And so what's the rush? That's what I want to know. What's the rush?
Well, and again, I think it's because so many people waited so long that now because they couldn't,
Yeah.
that now they're going the other direction. A good
Yep.
friend of mine is Lady April Ashley in London, who you may have
Uh-huh.
heard of, who
Yeah.
was one of the first transsexuals in
Hmm.
London, who's now like, 85 or 90 and
Yeah.
has an exhibit. But back then, her choice was to like be in a drag show
Hmm.
because that was the only work she could do because you were considered a freak.
Right.
And so she's like, well, but at least there was an option for me. Now, you've used different terms. You've said, back then you were probably called to tomboy.
Hmm.
Um, and you prefer the word transsexual versus
Hmm.
transgender. So
Yep.
I want to talk about terms because I am accused very often of using the wrong term. And fuck them. Who cares? You know what I mean? If you know that, if it's, I always think words have to be looked in the context of the person.
That's
If
right.
it's used just as a descriptor rather than to attack.
That's
And
right.
so transsexual was an old term that people used.
Hmm.
What is there a difference between transsexual and transgender? Because I don't know.
Right. And so what's happening today in the new trans community is we have a term called transgender, right? And
Right.
transgender used to mean specifically somebody like myself, somebody who went from female to
Who's
male,
had
lived
surgery.
sex change, that totally that.
Right.
Then it became the last 5 to 10 years, it became more of an umbrella term, which encompasses many types of gender variation, from mine all the way to people who are non-binary, gender non-conforming, gender whatever,
Or
gender
choose
play.
to live right. Exactly.
Maybe not
So
even have surgery, none
yeah,
of it. Yeah, totally. And that's awesome. But that does
but
not
it doesn't
reflect.
tell us anything.
That's right. And so for me, I actually had a sex change.
Right.
I have a medical condition called gender dysphoria. And gender dysphoria is the reason why I never felt like a woman and I felt like a man. The only way for me to alleviate my dysphoria, which I have, is by having a sex change, which is medicalization of my body. I shoot testosterone every week for the rest of my life. I had my breasts removed and I look and physically like a man. And it's how I want people to see me. I am not a trans person. I'm a transsexual person
Right.
who lives male. So everything I do is male. That's my pronouns,
and
male.
the point of the surgery is so
Mhm.
that your body reflects the image in your head, correct?
That's exactly right. And so what happened was the new transgender agenda said, no, Buck, you can't use transsexual. That's derogatory. It's antiquated. It's old. I go, what? That is actually my identity. And you're telling me I can't? I fought for the rights of trans people for 30 years. I've been doing this work. So I got a little bit, pissy about
And
it.
again,
I'm
why
like,
can't you use the word you're comfortable with?
are you kidding me? That's like telling a gay man he can call himself a fag. Of course he can.
Right.
100%
Right.
he can.
It's, we've gone through this. And again, it's all communities because we've
That's
gone
right.
through when blacks became African-American, but a
That's
lot of
right.
people said, I'm not from Africa.
That's right.
I want to be black. Leave me
They were
alone.
forcing that label on black people, and they were like, no, I'm black. And so you see what happened? We've now got confused. We're not sure if we should call you black or African American, and then it gets really weird. Well, that's what happened with trans people. And then trans people started becoming really intense on language. If you say anything, you're transphobic. And I was like, wow, that's not a way we're going to mold. Remember what I said earlier? Coexist. We all need to be together. That's exactly right. And when you push an agenda on people, they're going to push back on you. And I've never done that with myself. I've always been very open and free to discuss myself so people can learn from me. I don't care if you like me or not. That means nothing to me. What means something to me is you learn from me, and then you move on and you get out of my face if you're not in for it. But that said, today, so that said, I use transsexual because I am not a trans person. I'm a man who used to be a woman and had a sex change, and that's a transsexual person.
Well, I think we go through this also in the drag community because, again, I think there is a difference between a transvestite and a drag queen. A transvestite lives in female clothing. Most drag queens don't wear female clothing during the day. They use it when they're performing. So I don't know why somehow you can't use the specific term that everything is under this umbrella, but it is the world we live in now.
It's the world we live in, and everybody has ego, including me. And so that's so that said, no, you're not dragging transsexual out of my cold dead hands.
I just, I'm always amazed. And as we said, it is usually coming from the community that they do in many ways. And I'm sorry, trans people watching, I'm sure somebody's watching.
Somebody is.
You do yourself a disservice by wanting to paint yourself, all of you, with the same brush because you're all different. And if you're comfortable with this term, there are some people who've had the surgery and don't want trans at all. I'm a woman.
That's right.
I'm a man.
And
if that's how you want to describe yourself, why can't you?
But also there's this idea that trans men are men and trans women are women. No, we're not. We're actually trans. Like I said, my history is trans. If you take trans off the table and start to try to merge us in by saying biology doesn't exist, what that does is it takes away the experience of a trans. I'm not a biological man. I never will be. I'm a biological woman, which means my health care, the things I need are not the same as what you need. And so if I say I'm a man, that's just, if I go to the doctor and he's like, where are your testicles? And I'm like, actually, I have a vagina. And he's like, what? And it becomes this whole weird space. Like, what?
Well, and I also think, I've brought this up in my column many times that when you look at athletes, say you have somebody who was born a biological man, gets surgery and becomes a woman. Should they compete with women? Because they have an unfair advantage as far as I can tell. But I don't know, I don't know how you even categorize that. And there have been lawsuits about this.
Totally.
There have been, in the Olympics, there have been issues. And I don't really know what I think, like you're saying, the biology, you still have the advantages of that. I think that has to trump everything.
Of course it does.
Unless you were intersex. Now that's a whole other issue.
But that's not trans. That's intersex.
Right.
And here's the deal. We as trans people should know that more, but we're pushing our agenda. Trans women are women. They can compete against women. I was a woman athlete. And I can tell you right now, I had to compete against women from the USSR. Want to talk about that? Okay. That said, that was an uneven playing field. They kicked our asses. They came online like they look like me. I'm not kidding. I'm like, that's not a lady. Are you kidding me? and it was fucked up. And so I reversed that today. And I'm not saying it has nothing to do with looks. I don't care about looks. I don't care
Right.
how you look. What it comes down to is a fair advantage in sports. And for trans people to deny that this guy who transitioned to a woman at the age of 20 hasn't benefited from biological
You have the
male,
muscles of a man, right?
I mean, it's as if we're all, and that's why they want to erase biology, and they have an agenda. They're saying biology doesn't exist. Really? Tell that to 99% of the world, biology.
Right.
No wonder people hate trans people more than ever. I'm telling you, dude, I walk the world. People love me. I have such an amazing life. And now they're making it difficult for us because they're pushing an agenda on people, and it's not cool.
Right.
It's not
and again,
cool.
we also in athletes, we test for steroid use
Thank
because
you.
that's an unfair advantage. So
Thank you.
somewhere there should probably be a genetic screening of some kind. I don't know, because
This is
people
all
aren't going
new.
to tell you. Those little Romanian girls that become boys or boys that become girls,
That's right.
they're not going to tell you. You know,
That's exactly right. And you know what?
and
My
the
friend,
Russians, like you said.
it's brand new. The whole trans sports thing is brand new. Yet nobody on both sides, no one wants to have the conversation. We need to find a middle ground on this. And that said, we will eventually do that. But right now, nobody wants to have the conversation. And, nobody cares about trans men competing against men because there's no
the biological men are going to have the advantage.
But it's the problem is trans women competing with biological women. And I'm telling you, I was a woman athlete. I know it feels very, do you know that woman, Fallon Fox? She was a UFC fighter, trans woman. She went in the ring and busted that girl's head without even telling them that she used to be a trans woman. She just nailed it.
And that woman would never get in a ring with a man.
Never. So how is that fair? And why didn't she say she was trans? So she messed it up for all of us. We're not being honest. And that's the thing that really creates a better space in the world, when we're all honest about what we want to achieve instead of pretending like biology doesn't, that erases homosexuality when you say biology doesn't exist. Biology is a basis of homosexuality. Gay men like men and women like women. That's gay.
Right. That was the whole point of nature versus nurture.
That's right. There you go.
So I want to know now, when you started out, when did you eventually get what they call top surgery?
Yeah. So I had my top surgery about 25 or 26 years ago here in Los Angeles.
So you lived for a long time just dressing as a man.
What
were you doing? Were you strapping down your chest? Oh, okay.
So back in the day, there used to be an actual system that you had to do in order to transition. But when I was doing it, it was so new. No one had ever gone from female to male here where I'm at. I was the first person for the doctor, both doctors. They were like, literally called me their guinea pig. So that said, before my top surgery, I used to use duct tape. Duct tape and
that's gonna be painful.
And then I would put another ace bandage over it. My boobs weren't even that big, but in my mind they were double D's. And so I lived every day with that. Even if it was 110 degrees outside, I lived in that space, and it was just degrading on some level, horrible.
Yeah, mentally, that's got to make the journey. I mean, as if your journey isn't hard enough. That's got to make the journey really hard.
Yeah, it does. And so I do feel for the youngsters who are dealing with this dysphoria. That's called dysphoria. It's chest dysphoria, bottom dysphoria. So, when I did it, I had no idea. I couldn't go to the internet. It didn't even exist. I couldn't look at pictures of trans guys. I didn't have a clue. I basically went into it blind. And I said, my mantra was always like, if it doesn't work out, I'll kill myself. That was always what I said.
Which is why so many trans people do kill themselves.
That's right, because we don't know. We're not, all I knew is I was fed up. I could not live as a female anymore. And this was my only other option out besides death. So I was willing to take that option. And if it didn't work, I would just, blow my brains out. And that was that. It was just a simple thing. I'll just blow my brains out. Whatever.
See, but that's a guy way of committing suicide. A woman would have taken pills.
Exactly. I was like,
so apparently you really were a guy.
Totally, dude.
So what made you think to yourself, what was it that made you say, okay, I'm actually going to get the surgery? Was it counseling? Was it education? What was it for you?
So I started seeing a therapist, and I had been going to many therapists prior to that. And
Mhm.
every single one of my therapists said, you're just a male identified female. Like maybe you're gay, maybe you're just a very masculine woman. They had no clue on how to deal with the trans stuff. So I found a new therapist. And I remember back in the day, like you can actually see my eyes right now. I used to wear my baseball caps like this everywhere I went because I could
Really?
not, yeah, I couldn't look at people. I was so freaked out about being a woman. So I went to her office and I remember.
Were you, wait, I'm gonna just stop. Were you
Yeah.
freaked out of them seeing you and saying you're a woman, or
Yeah.
did you not want to see them?
Well, I think it's more about them seeing me, and
Yeah.
then I would see their reaction to me, and it just
Mhm.
every day I walked out that door so scared and so uncomfortable,
That's
and
just
so
horrible way to
it's
live.
horrible. I have to tell you, but like that's why I celebrate my life. I literally walk out the door like, yeah, watch out. So that said, I found a new therapist and I sat in her office for 4 weeks, 1 hour a day. And I wouldn't say a word. And I was so freaked out because I didn't know how to tell her. And then I was going to wait for her to say, oh, you're just a male identified female, blah, blah, blah. So finally I said, Casey, and then I just remember like totally crying. And I remember like it's going to make me cry because it's just so really the reason I'm here. And then I just said to her, I feel like a man. And I was waiting for her to say, nope, you're a lady. And she said, I believe you. She said those
Wow.
words, I believe you. And I was
The
like,
first time somebody
yeah,
sees you the way you see
yeah,
yourself.
totally. And I was like, whoa. And then she was instrumental. She saved my life. And then we tried to figure out, it was here in LA and there wasn't really anywhere to go or anybody, but Different Light Bookstore. Which, wow, remember those
Yeah.
bookstores? Oh, God. And I found a manual, like a manual. It was for transgender resource guide for
Not a
male to be-
do-it-yourself thing, I hope.
Totally. I mean, the sad thing is people were doing it themselves
I
back in
know.
the day. They were cutting their penises off. They were
Well, and
cutting their
people were
breasts off.
going, where was it? To like Mexico and
Yeah,
India and
yeah,
places that were
totally.
doing that experimental stuff.
That's
I mean,
right.
so many people died.
Oh, so many. It's just horrible. So yeah, that saved my life. She saved my life. She really believed, and I could go and now and search, and I could try to figure out what the next steps were. And that resource guide was the reason I found my hormone doctor. When I went to see him, he said, I've never done this before. I've only worked with men becoming women. And I'm like, holy crap. And then he goes, you'll be my guinny pig. And I'm like,
Did you
let's
say,
do
look,
it.
I've got a book for you. Here, follow this book. So
Yeah, man. Wow.
who were you having sex with at
So
that
yeah,
point?
great.
Were you
Great
having
question.
sex with men or women? What were you attracted to?
Yeah. So prior to transition, I really thought of myself as a gay woman and a butch woman, and I was always attracted to women. And so I tried to get my girlfriends to call me he. And back in the '80s, that was not like a thing, and I had to just kind of deal with it. But that said, then I started transitioning, and I had never been attracted to men before. But during my transition, I started to see gay. I'm very into like muscular gay men, very macho, very masculine. And so I started like going to the leather scene, and that's where I started.
Well, obviously, you're attracted to me then, clearly,
right on.
because I'm just so your type.
Right on. No, you're my type, my friend. Right on. No, I love you. But that said, yeah, it was the Leatherman.
So you
macho
did try both sides.
Yeah.
Were you able to enjoy it, sexually speaking?
No, in the beginning, because I wanted a penis so bad. And just, for me, this is my story. I'm not anti-bottom surgery or penis.
Right.
I just didn't like the way it looked and functioned. It didn't function the way I wanted it to.
And again, as we were saying earlier, it didn't match the picture in your head. You should have a penis.
That's right. And so,
and I know a lot of trans women have mutilated themselves because they really have this anger and hatred towards their vagina.
That's right. It's horrible. And so I realized that, through masturbation, that I actually liked my vagina and I liked sex and I liked having an orgasm. And I was like, I'm going to lose my orgasm when I do that surgery, because at the time, you lose it just becomes a thing in between your legs. And I'm like,
I think it's much harder for women to go male versus male female.
That's right. So I chose not to do it. And I had to really learn to accept my body sexually and started experimenting with people. And I have to tell you that pretty much I've been very lucky. Most people who early on had sex with with me were very intrigued and very into it. And on some level, I'm sure it was a novelty, but that's okay. I was getting my needs met too. So who
So
cares?
people were attracted to you as a man,
Mhm.
and then you'd have to either tell them,
That's right.
"Hey, surprise, there's something down there not
Oh
there."
yeah, of course. Because the first time I went to a bar here, it's called the Fault Line in LA, and I
I
remember
know
there
the
was a
fault
guy.
line.
He was licking my boots and going at it, and I was like, "This is so awesome!" And I'm smoking a cigar, and he has no clue. And then all of a sudden, he starts going up my leg to my crotch, and I'm not wearing it. I'm like, And then I'm just like, I gotta tell him. I gotta tell him. And then I
Yeah.
told him. I used to be a woman and now I'm a man. He goes, what? He goes, excuse me, sir. And I go, I used to be a woman and now I'm a man and I have a vagina. And he goes, I don't believe you and I don't care. And that was like really my first sexual experience. And he didn't care.
Yeah,
And
see,
just
now I
showed
would
her.
think for a lot of gay men who don't have any vaginal experience,
Yes.
that would either freak them out or
Yes.
intrigue them. It would have to go
Both.
one. And now I have a lot of friends who actually had a lot of straight experience
Yep.
before realizing they were gay. But
Exactly.
these days, you've got people coming out so young that they
Yep.
may not have known anything about this.
True.
There's all
True.
uncharted territory.
That's exactly right. And then early on in my porn work, that actually attracted gay men. Those became my customer base, and because they were so intrigued by a man with a vagina, you know,
Really?
oh my God, I would
So
get.
they could be turned on by your body, but also
That's
have
right.
a so-called heterosexual
That's right.
experience.
I think I don't know. Who knows what goes on in people's heads?
Yeah, I don't know.
But anyway, but a lot of gay men really received me and loved me. But then I would get a lot of hate mail from other gay men. I'm assuming they were bottoms. they, they were like,
They were
"You're
just
not a
jealous.
man."
They were jealous you had two receptacles. They're
That's
like, why
exactly
I
right.
only got one? But I know there's a big niche market for transsexual porn and the
Yeah.
chicks with dicks and
Yeah.
the other way. Well, I don't even know what you call it. See, is there a term for
So
the
I
women
created
who
the
become
genre.
men?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
created that genre of FTM porn. It's female to
Right,
male
to me.
porn. So yeah, 21 years ago, I was the first like mainstream porn actor as a trans man. I won the AVN award. I created a whole line of products and toys. So yeah, I really made it happen. But today we have more guys in the porn business like me, but it's not as much as I would like to see. You know, it's
Yeah,
still
I
difficult.
remember even coming out. I remember I remember when I would go to Florida where there's a very strong drag culture that
Uh-huh.
you would have the guys with penises who got the implants and
Yeah.
they were like the best of both worlds. And I'm
Right.
like, well, if you wanted to go the other way, that's so unfair to a woman who feels like she should be a man. You
Right.
can't just add a penis as easily.
No, it's a very difficult surgery. Many of my friends have it, and that's fine. But for me, it's just too complicated, and you know, I don't particularly care for the outcome. For me, it's
It
not
would
like
also
a
be scary, I think, at this point. I think maybe
yeah,
if you did it
yeah,
younger, maybe. And again,
maybe
as you
yeah.
said, it wasn't available.
No, it wasn't. It was very, very kind of back alley. And also, you know, I just don't even think about it now. I just don't.
Really?
No, it's weird. Like I literally would actually not be comfortable having a penis. I would not.
Really?
I really actually just so celebrate my body. I feel so comfortable in it. I can walk naked. I go all over the world with my work and I walk in gyms all over the world and men stare at me all the time and I don't care. Like if
Do
they have
they ask?
yes, they do ask.
Like
Mostly
in a
in Europe.
locker room, somebody's like, what the hell's
Yep.
happening down
Yep.
there?
One guy asked me, we were sitting in the steam room and then like we were just kicking it and he was like letting his wiener hang out. So I was like, fine, I'm going to let mine hang out too. So we were just sitting there and he goes, what's that? And I'm like, a vagina. And he goes, what? And we started talking. And to this day, me and him are awesome friends. So he was like, wow, fascinated. And so, you know, I'm a believer of how you come at people can actually be a way that people will learn. I never come angry at people. I always come, sure, ask me however you want. I'm not insulted or feel weird about it at all. So I really feel like on some level, my body has become an educational tool.
Show and tell.
Totally.
Did you want to go into porn, or being transsexual, did you think that was one of your only options?
Oh, good question. No, I never thought it wasn't just my only option. What I saw was nobody doing it. And I was working in pornography behind the scenes with a partner
Oh,
who was
really?
a dominatrix, and I was creating all her movies, and then I was working on a trans woman's website. And I just said, wait a minute, there's no trans guy. Remember, it used to be like chicks with dicks,
That's it.
lady
Yeah,
boys.
sure.
And so I just flipped that and called myself the man with the pussy. And I was like, this is a great idea.
Was there a market for that?
No, that I created
Because you had to
it.
create it, right?
There was no market. So how did I even know if anyone was going to buy? So I made 3 movies. I made one with me and all biological men, me with women and men, and then me with just women.
Right.
And the one with men just took off. It was crazy. Yeah.
Really?
Yes. I
So
know.
again,
I still to this day don't get it.
So you're thinking to yourself that maybe it's straight guys who still like the idea of 2 guys that look like guys, but one isn't. I mean, I'm
it's
trying to
gay
think.
men. It was
It's
all
gay men.
men. That's right. And then I did a Titan movie, right? Which I was the first, still the only transgender man, transsexual man to be in a Titan mainstream gay production.
And again, for people who don't know, Titan are like the big, butch,
They're
muscular
huge. Yes.
bears
Yes.
and ripped and
Yes.
bodybuilders. Right.
Totally.
Okay.
Like all steroided
Like the
out.
last place you would expect a vagina to show up.
So I was in a movie called Cirque Noir, and it became like a huge, it's a cult classic now in gay porn. And it was awesome. And it was like really amplified my sort of space in the porn world as someone who can kind of go from, from this kind of porn to that kind of porn and back. It's not easy coming out of porn. That's been a very difficult space for me to get into. Yeah. People, once you do porn, it's like you're the devil. Seriously.
Well, also, I'm a gay VN judge. I've been one for decades. And I've always found, and I know the young boys in particular, and usually if they get into it young, they're looking for something that not only are they not going to find, but when they are tossed aside, they're going to be even worse off. So maybe because you came in older and created your own genre, you were better met, and also it sounds like you went through an awful lot of therapy, that you were more mentally equipped to deal with that.
I did. I'm a believer. Let me tell you, to this day, mental health care is the most important thing to me, and what I really preach on all levels. I don't care what your mental health care regime is. It could be meditation. It could be, but really understanding you have control over your life. I'm so tired of this victim-y attitude. Everyone hates me. That's not true. I literally walk the world naked, and people are not.
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
So now I'm just curious. You've been in relationships. You've been in relationships with women. You've mentioned the dominatrix before. So I want to hear about the dominatrix situation. Is that a scene that you were interested in, or is it just a situation you fell into with this person?
Yeah, so I was very much into the fetish and leather scene. And so sometimes the gay men's scene does kind of, especially in San Francisco, it sort of kind of it integrates itself maybe with the straighter scene, which is kind of fun. I think I like kind of different spaces. So that's where I met she eventually became my wife. And so I was a birthday present for her, but she was a dominatrix, and
what
awesome.
A present.
I know. And we had the best time, and then we ended up getting married, and
and so I have a picture of her. That's Elaine. And so
that's not. That's Elaine, my second wife, which is a body person.
Well, how
my
many
first
fucking wives are you having?
I know, I've been married twice, but my first one,
I don't have a picture then.
But she actually ended up having an affair with the director of The Matrix, Larry Wachowski, who then became Alana Wachowski. And I was very much involved in that. Yeah, it was a big scandal.
Wow, I don't know anything about
Google
this.
it.
Oh my God.
You'll see, it's hilarious. Yeah, that wasn't a good marriage. That ended up becoming she ended up kind of having an affair with one of her clients, and that was Larry Wachowski. And so, it became a very big story. And so it's sad because, Larry is now Lana, and that's awesome. And then Larry's brother, who used to be his brother, now became his sister. So that's Lily Wachowski. And Lily was before not okay with Larry transitioning. So I remember
guess
the whole
what?
thing.
then he
Yeah,
got
that's
a
right.
transition as well.
That's right.
You know,
That's
it's
right.
sort of like politicians who are so anti-gay, and
That's
then you find out, oh,
that's
look, I
right.
have a boyfriend who's 12 years old and Cuban. You know,
That's oh my
I'm not
god.
mentioning names, but I'm just look, Google that.
Oh
Um,
my god, it's so real.
you know, or again, the religious people who are just so
Oh,
fire and brimstone, and then you find out that they've got, you know,
that's
little
right.
Thai boys running around their
Jim
house.
Baker.
Well,
Remember Jim Baker? Like
Jim
full
Baker.
on had an affair with that dude. I met the guy. He wrote a book about his whole affair. Jim Baker used to say, "Okay, meet me at this hotel and bring a lot of meth." And they
Yeah.
used to flaunt. Oh my God, Jim Baker! Wow,
Well, and then
typical.
and look at, you know, and we still don't know what's happening with Jerry Falwell
That's
Jr. and the
right.
wife and the boy
That's
and other
right.
boys and watching but not
That's the one who
watching.
attacked Larry Flint.
Yes,
Those,
it was. Yeah.
yes, those
And
people,
again,
man.
now, you know, we go back to where we started, which is these people who are always looking outward and attacking.
That's
And
right.
I'm like, you know, not for nothing, but the more you attack, the more I have to wonder what's going on in your life.
That's exactly right. Like, why? Who cares? Let people do their thing. And like, everyone is so up in everyone else's business. And also, if you don't agree with people and their opinions now, you're a bad person. And I'm like, what? I've never agreed with everybody. I've always been sort of opinionated and very much on my own course.
Yeah,
I'm
you and
that
I both.
person. Yeah, right on.
And I'm also very much a contrarian that
Hmm.
sometimes I like to explore something that I don't agree with, because
Right on.
if I can argue the point, then I can understand it more. But that's, again, a lot of people don't like that.
That's maturity. So
Yeah.
we have lost maturity. The internet, social media has actually created a monster. We have lost all of our faculties on some. We've lost we've lost the art of conversation. We have lost the art of having different opinions,
Or
of
being an
discourse,
individual.
or being that they have taken out debate classes out of university in the United States
Yeah,
of
I
America.
don't understand that. Yeah.
Disgusting, because kids can't handle different opinions, and we're teaching them not to.
Well, I also have to say that in this political climate, most people are circled by people who agree with them.
That's right.
Uh,
That's right.
they cannot have friends that have a difference of opinion,
That's
which
right.
you know, I understand on a visceral level,
Uh-huh.
but I also think that the more you disagree with somebody, the more it gives you an opportunity
That's
to
right.
understand them, even if it's not personal growth. It's if you can't understand why someone hates you, how are you ever going to get anywhere?
And then why do people even hate me in the trans community because I don't
Well,
agree with things? Why would you hate me? I don't hate you. I just
Well,
disagree with you.
there is the idea because you are so visible
Hmm.
that you are
Hmm.
representing, and
That's
again,
right.
as if there's an idea that there's only one type. And so give us look, I will tell you right now, if you have stumbled onto this broadcast, I am not representative of all gay people.
Yeah, you
Most of
are.
them aren't nearly as clever or blonde. But
True,
but
true.
you know, I think that you know, and it's stereotypes are based on some
That's
sort of a
right.
fact. So when you see somebody on stage who is gay and they're lisping or mincing, you're like, oh, it makes us all look bad. Well, it doesn't make you all look bad. If
Well,
you don't like him, there is somebody who likes him.
it's weird. That's
Yeah.
weird behavior. Like, I don't represent anybody. It's like I have to do this disclaimer every time I talk. I am not a representation of any community. I'm a representation of me and what
Yourself.
I have done and my life story and where I stand and my beliefs. And, I am open-minded to changing my beliefs. I've changed my beliefs for the last 20 years. Constantly, I'm going back and forth
Yeah,
because
I don't
I
know
can
why
be.
people have an issue about evolution. That
I don't know. No,
your
I know
opinion
why.
changes all the time. Okay, go
That's
ahead.
right. I know why, because I told you earlier, when you take biology off the table, then certain groups of people can just slide right in. And it's specifically in regards to women. And this
Really?
idea that, trans women are women. Trans women are trans women.
Right.
No one's discounting the fact that they're women. They're just a different kind of woman than a biological woman. If you
Right.
don't have that's like me saying I'm a biological man. No, I'm not. I was raised as a woman. I have my whole life prior to becoming a trans man or becoming a man was literally socialized as a woman. You weren't. So me and you are different men, and we
Well,
don't have the same.
I also think that, you know, say women who have had cancer and have to have a mastectomy, are
That's
they
right.
still women? They
That's
don't
right.
have boobs. So
That's
now
right.
do I have to put them in a different class as they're a, you know, why do I put them in any label?
That's right. And then why are we even arguing over experiences? Biological women experiences is different than a trans woman's experience. That's all. But no one's saying they're not women. We're just saying we have different ideas. And so because of that, there's a big, J.K. Rowling. I'm sure you know about that.
I
And
saw
her
this.
saying,
Yep.
I mean, it's gross. I don't even get involved in it because there's no need for me to get involved in it because I don't like the way we trample over people when someone has a different opinion about the trans situation.
Well, they come out and attack, and again, that's about everything. And
That's
they
right.
also don't want to listen. And
That's right.
that I think is, and again, where it's the world we live in. You
Yep.
have a president that doesn't want to listen
That's
and
right.
doesn't want to see. And also, I think people are afraid of the other, whatever that other is.
Yes.
It is frightening to them. And look, if I saw you coming down the street and somebody said, "Oh, by the way, that's a woman," I might go, "Huh?" And that might make me feel uncomfortable. But if I got to know you and hear your story, I wouldn't be as uncomfortable.
That's right.
And why would I want to be uncomfortable? Why wouldn't I want to know and then go, "Okay, get it. I got it. Good."
It's so simple. I'm telling you, I live that in my life. I travel. I sit next to people on airplanes. They always want to know, what do I do? And I'm very honest about what I am and who I do.
Wow,
I
really?
would say not always. 90% of the time, people are so cool about it. By the time we leave, I give them my card. I mean, there's 10% of the people are like, shut down. I'm like, fine, man. We don't have to have a conversation. But I'm telling you, man, when you come at people with genuine, honest, compassion, empathy, want to talk, want to have conversation, people open their minds. And I deal with that all over all kinds of walks of life of people. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's my experience. People are not transphobic. They want to know about us. They want to hear about us. They want to understand what we need, why this is way, and why they don't know because we're not giving them education. We're shutting it down by saying, go educate yourself. You should know. People aren't going to educate themselves. No. That's not how people are. People will say, okay, tell me about it and I'll learn. And I'm willing to talk about it because I want people not to be transphobic.
Now you're in a relationship with Rachel Mason.
Yes, I am.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And there's a picture of you
Oh,
guys.
Oh, what a great picture.
Oh, I love that. Who knows? The internet's a beautiful thing. Now, I love Rachel. For people who don't know, we've had her on here already. Yeah. She did the documentary about Circus of Books, the bookstore that her parents owned for years. Now, they're a very interesting couple, needless to say. And how have they accepted you? Now, they had been around, at least been exposed to a lot of this.
Yeah.
But now, all of a sudden, their daughter is in a relationship with somebody who appears to be a man, but has a vagina.
Right. Well, as you probably saw the movie, that her parents have been through a lot, especially the mom, and she's really been really had to rethink her whole religion, everything, hardcore Judaism.
Yes, they're very Jewish.
They're very Jewish. So that said, I think because Karen had already been really dealt with her gay son, Josh, that she had already come and they're very big in PFLAG. So I think I wasn't too much of I think my tattoos are the thing that bother them the most. And that's when you know it's awesome. But today, oh my God, I have the most amazing relationship with that family. Rachel and I are getting married and I'm converting to Judaism and everything is amazing.
Going to work out. I mean, is there well, I know me. I don't know if I don't know about
no, I'm telling you, man.
As a trans person.
That's right.
Are there temples open to that?
Yeah. Right. The temple that we're going to is actually one of the rabbis is a gay woman and her partner is a trans guy. So no, this is why I actually really like Judaism. I find it to be much more open-minded than Christianity. I was raised Baptist, and I really find a lot of the teachings to be more about helping and giving and being a part of the world. And that's what I noticed in Judaism. There's a lot of giving in that world. And I really appreciate that and love it. And, they're very into being Jewish and I want to be part of the family and I want to respect that. And I feel,
It's funny when you mentioned Josh coming out, and we
Yeah.
saw that in the documentary, and I'm just kind of laughing to myself that's the story Rachel is telling in the documentary of her brother so nervous about coming out and
Yeah.
talking about that, the family's not going to accept us. Okay, you accept that. Surprise. Guess what? We have a sequel.
That's right. Oh my God. But it's amazing that, that film is really changing lives. I see what Rachel
It is
gets
an
all the
amazing
time.
film.
Yeah. It reached millions of people. It got an Emmy nomination. I mean,
Yep.
you know how big that's a big deal for a film like that deals with gay male
Well,
sexuality.
I think also, again, because Karen is such a character,
Yeah.
I think that makes it even more compelling because you're
Totally.
seeing if this person who is so conservative and so ethnic and so
hmm
Jewish
hmm
has this other side
That's
and
right.
then had to deal with this on top of that,
That's right.
it's like, well, anybody can.
That's right. That's why it's so profound. I mean, she was shut down.
You
She was
saw a
hardcore.
journey.
I
Yeah.
know. And I mean, I love Karen a lot. She's such a great, loving, beautiful Karen and Barry. Rachel's
Oh,
very blessed with
see,
great
Barry
parents.
is all Barry. It was so funny because Josh was so nervous about talking to his father,
Yeah.
Barry, and I
Yeah.
guess that's a boy, a gay son to his father thing.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the documentaries, thinking, is he not worried about that mother? But again, family dynamics are
Yeah.
different because you
They
saw the
are.
relationship Rachel and Karen has.
That's right. Oh, yeah. They had that relationship.
They know
And
how to push
today,
each other's buttons.
but today they are just the most amazing mother and daughter. It's just beautiful to watch them. I mean, really, I have to say, Karen's been nothing, and Barry, nothing but supportive of me coming into the family. And, I'm just lucky I found Rachel. I feel very blessed, and she's my
How did
life
you meet?
partner.
How did you meet?
We actually met. So she contacted me on my Instagram because Circus of Books was coming out. She wanted me to be in the last part of the filming of it, but I couldn't make it. So then
Right.
the movie got at Outfest. It was the opening movie at Outfest last year, and so she texted me. She said, "You want to be my date for Outfest?" I'm like, "Awesome, let's do this." And I didn't even barely know her, and it was like the minute we met, there was a connection for us. It was really awesome, and that was sort of our first date. And then we, eventually kind of just started going together and hanging out. And both of us weren't looking for anything. I think that's always how it happens when you're not looking for it.
I also think it's a really good match in terms of your messages and,
Yeah.
you're really what you're both focusing on, which is acceptance and
That's
education
right.
and understanding.
That's right. That's right. And she supports all of my work, and I support hers. And I mean, I can't say enough good things about Rachel. She's really a powerful person, and I'm very blessed to have her in my life.
And you're saying now you're getting married, which is
Yeah, we're
good.
gonna get married. Like we're actually like lesbian couple. We like moved in. We got the U-Haul. We're like we full on moved in. Got a house. Like we're like on our way. We're getting married next. No, but I'm 58, and
Well, this will now
I'm
be your
tired.
third marriage.
I know, it'll be my third. 3 is a good number. But that says I believe in divorce. Divorce
Well,
is very
apparently.
important. Yeah, because you can't stay with somebody you're not in love with anymore. And you can't stay with somebody who's cheating on you. And you can't stay with somebody who has no integrity. And I'm that guy who will not stay with people like that. So divorce is not a bad thing.
Is that why the other marriages didn't last?
That's exactly right. And my second marriage, which was Elaine, the picture you showed
Oh,
first,
yeah, right here.
she actually did something very bad. She
Ooh,
ended up stealing
what did she
all
do?
of my money, kicking me out of the house, and she challenged my gender in court, which is I'm the first case in California, and I think even in the United States, where somebody had their marriage challenged because of their gender. So she was trying to say that I was actually a woman and not a man because I have a vagina, even though all my birth certificate, everything has been changed to male. So she was trying to get our marriage annulled so she didn't have to give the
Wow.
money back. Oh my
Hey.
God, it was so insane. Like, I'm not going to stay with somebody like that. Like, you literally are a sociopath. And sociopaths, you don't know they're sociopaths.
Now, at a time, I had lunch with somebody yesterday, and he said to me, he remembered when you lived down in the Yucatan in
Yes,
Mexico,
that's right.
and that was also a really weird kind of time in your life because
Yeah.
all of a sudden now you're Mexican, you're on this
Yep.
ranch, and you've
That's
got all
right.
this stuff. And what was that like?
Oh my God. Honestly, it changed my life. I missed Yucatan, Merida, Yucatan so much. I lived there for 10 years and it was life changing. You know, I got out of the US because I lived in New Orleans, Louisiana, and Katrina hit and Bush was in office and they did nothing for that situation. And I was like, I
Right.
hate living here. I can't stand it. It's disgusting. I'm moving out of this country. And they were really coming after pornography and the obscenity law was coming into effect and people were being arrested in porn for obscene. I'm like, I'm probably the most obscene person in porn. I'm like, I'm out of here. I ran for the hills. So yeah, I moved to Mexico for 10 years and the Yucatan was Mayan, you know, country. And I learned so much about just people. You know, I got down to not having so much, I didn't need things. I learned how to live like just free of wanting everything and needing so much and learning how to really look into myself. And that's where I really learned a lot about looking inward as opposed to outward.
And you were still coming back here and working, so you
Yeah, I was
continued your
traveling the
career.
world. Yeah, really doing all that work. And then after 10 years, something happened. And my ex, Elaine, she just literally lost her mind. And it was so flipped like that. One day she's saying, I love you. The next day she's saying, never come home. I'm like, what? So some kind of mental illness or something happened and clicked.
Was that what made you come back to the US to
That's
become a
exactly
citizen
right.
again?
That's exactly
Well,
right.
I
That's why I
assume you
moved back.
kept your citizenship the whole time.
Yeah,
anyway.
I did, but I have a green card. I have a forever green card, so I can go back and forth from Mexico anytime I want. I was about to actually get Mexican citizenship at the
Oh,
time.
wow.
Yeah, because
Oh,
you can
thank
have
God you
dual.
found out.
I know, and also, but right now I'm actually applying for Canadian citizenship because my dad's Canadian, so I want to
Mhm.
have dual citizenship just in case.
Yeah, I know. I'm a big believer in that. So now what do you see? What do you see as your next step?
Yeah.
Is there, I mean, you've
Yeah.
kind of did the porn thing. You're still
Uh-huh.
you're still producing porn, correct?
Yeah, a little bit,
Not
not
as
so
much.
much. It's not my focus.
Okay.
I make basically sex toys, what I call sexual wellness toys. I made the world's first line of transgender male sex toys. So
Really?
basically, yeah. So basically, they're basically used to masturbate because some of us still have our vagina and we don't want to touch it. But I believe in masturbation as a means and a way to really connect to your body. And so I made something called the Buck Off, which is basically a
Oh.
stroker, like a stroker what a bioman uses, and it goes,
Mhm.
our clitorises grow very large from the testosterone. So we
Well,
have like a
that's
small
how the
penis.
people who have the bottom surgery, that's what becomes the basis for their
That's
penis,
exactly
right?
right. That's exactly right. So I made those toys, and my focus more now is sexual wellness. And I actually started a cannabis company 5 years ago, and
Oh,
that's one of the very first LGBT focus with my trans man friend, and we're the first trans-owned cannabis company in California. And so that's been 5 years going. And I'm sober from drugs and alcohol, but I use cannabis as I believe in it as a medication.
and what is your life like? I mean, it sounds like your life is so great, but I mean,
It's
in
great.
terms of like, especially during this pandemic, what are
Yeah.
things on hold? Are you able to keep doing your things?
Well, there are certain things. I traveled a lot before this. Right before the pandemic happened, I was in Australia on a speaking tour. So I do a ton of speaking tours all over the world. And I I literally got on the plane the day before they locked it down. I would have been stuck in
Really?
Australia all this time. Yeah. So right now
Wow.
I'm doing speaking on Zoom and doing speaking events that way. But mostly I'm just really concentrating on my cannabis company because right now everybody needs cannabis and it's a real thing. And also my products. So those are everything in my business, really, and also giving back to my community, and working with my community and people who don't have a lot and helping to sort of, we give money back to the LGBT community through my cannabis company to help
Do you have,
seniors.
yeah, I was just going to say, what are your pet causes at this
So
point?
right now I work with my company is called Pride Wellness, and that's my cannabis company. And every time somebody buys any kind of product from me from a dispensary, $1 from that product goes to the LGBT center here in Los Angeles, senior
Great,
services,
great.
specifically seniors. We have homeless gay seniors. Like that
Really?
totally. Yes, in LA. Oh my God, you can't even
Because we hear
imagine.
about the youths all the time, and they've done
I
great
know
job
we
with the
never
young
hear about
people.
seniors, but
No,
there's a lot of them. And so I'm disgusted with the fact that seniors, any gay senior is on the street. That should never be. Those people fought for us to be where we are now. So
right.
one of my causes is the seniors. And then in Palm Springs, I just opened a delivery service, a cannabis delivery. And so
Oh, wow.
we work with the transgender center there in Cathedral City. And so really, again, those are my things are education, Kids, talking to kids today, there's too many kids, I think they're trans, and we're not having
Mhm.
the conversation. And what does that mean? And I think it's really important that we have to start to understand the differences between trans identity and having gender dysphoria. They're two
Right.
completely different things. Yeah. So
Do
that's
you
it.
have do you have hope at this point? Because it's, if you're able to look back at where you started 50 years
Yeah.
ago, and
Yeah.
then look at somebody starting today,
Yeah.
do they have more advantages, or is there so much information that sometimes that can be a disadvantage?
No, I think really 100% we're in such a better space. But that said, I also think there's a flip side to that. And I do see a push of medicalization. And that particular for me makes my bells go off, because I'm like, why do we have to medically transition youngsters so early without letting them just sort of feel their space? So I think it's great. And I think we're talking about it. And I think kids don't feel alienated as much anymore. But I also think we're pushing it a little bit much, and if that makes sense. And I'm
Yeah.
paying attention. I'm just paying attention as an elder of the community. And I just want, the most thing I want is for kids never to suffer, ever, ever.
Do you look at yourself really as like sort of a mentor in
Mhm.
that kind of position because you've lived through it?
100%. The kids who are really look up to me call me Trampa. So I am a Trampa. I'm that guy who gives a shit about these kids, and I don't want them to ever be. I used to cut myself. I tried to
Oh,
commit suicide.
really?
Oh, yeah, I was a bad cutter. When I was 16, I was drinking and I was on drugs, and I became homeless. I became a prostitute. I became all the things you don't want your kid to become. And that said, that's why I'm paying attention. And it's not that easy. It's not all size fits one, right? It's not that.
Right.
Every kid is different, and we need to look at it on an individual basis, and not on as like, oh, when my kid says I'm trans, I'm trans. That's not true. Kids can say anything and then
Right.
change their mind tomorrow. I have an 8-year-old, so I'm very aware of what kids do. I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. Like, I'm really actually paying attention. I think it's important as an elder.
Is there anything about your life right now that if I had a magic wand that I could change something,
Yeah.
is there something that is either missing or you wish were different?
On a whole, basically,
Yeah.
of everything that's going on, what I wish is for conversation. This is
Right.
honestly what I wish for more than anything. We have lost the art of conversation. We have lost the art of opinions. We have lost the art of it's okay for me and you to have different opinions, but
Right.
to understand what is our ultimate goal? What is your ultimate goal and what is mine? That's for us to be able to live in the world free of worrying what people think about us and be able to do whatever we need to do. Now, that said, of course, we're not here for hate speech or bullshit,
Yeah.
KKK and Nazis and all that shit. We're not for that. But we're for
But you
helping
also
people.
sound but you sound so well adjusted, and there has to
Mhm.
be something in your life that you're like, I wish I were
I see what.
able to do this or that, or, just even a silly thing, even if, oh, I wish I was at this point 20 years ago.
Gosh, I mean, I'm gonna tell you, I can't. It makes me cry when I think about my life because I don't
Really?
think it's fair. I think, and I know I worked very hard to get here, but I can tell you that I don't miss anything. I don't wish for
Wow.
anything. I feel as if the universe has given me everything. Every time I ask, I get. It's like a very strange thing. Like I just manifest stuff in my life, and that's really, I think, on some level, I've lived this long because I can't believe I'm here at 58. I should not be
Right.
alive. But that said, that's why I like to actually express to the world that I have an amazing life and I don't want for anything because I have really grounded myself on what that means and to actually appreciate to an extent where I'm at today. It's very important to always be grateful for what you have and not for what you don't have.
So again, I think what's great is that you really did create. I mean, there are so many people who say they're self-made men.
Yeah.
You're actually a self-made man.
True, my friend. A lot of
You know,
work. I got to go to the gym.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing is I think that really when you look at yourself, nothing was really handed to you. I wonder if what your life would have been had you been born a biological man. And I
Yeah,
don't know if it would have been better.
it
It would have
wouldn't
been
have been.
different.
Yes, It would have been a whole other, like, I wouldn't be this guy. And that's what I try to tell the kids. Look, yeah, I don't want you to go through shit like I did, but you must embrace your past as a girl. And you must understand, to call it a dead name is really irresponsible and actually really not a good thing to understand. Yeah, you had to live that life in order to become this awesome dude you are today. You're not a biological man. You're a trans man. Celebrate that and understand your experiences are even more powerful.
Well, and I think we can say that for everyone. I think gay people, you
That's
are a gay man, you are a gay woman, whatever.
That's right.
And I think I think that's an enormously powerful message, to just own who you are and embrace that.
That's right. And like, you know, I know I'm an old guy now, and you know, it's hard to talk to kids. They're always like, ah, you're just an old dude. You don't know shit. You're grumpy. I'm like, I actually know a lot. And I get why you don't want, I fought against the elders too when I was a youngster. Oh, shut up, old man. You don't know anything. But I know some of the kids can hear me. And that is really, I don't care if I meet one, you know, one kid who can just hear me say, you know, stop pushing against the world. Be a part of the world.
And no, don't fight yourself.
That's right. That's right. Stop being angry at yourself. You know, this is the cards you were dealt. Deal with that. Figure out how to move through the world. I did. I moved through the world as a man with a vagina. And it's just that. And I don't even think about it anymore.
And again, to really embrace that term, and a term that didn't even exist, and say, okay, I'm a man with the vagina. They'll say, well, I never heard of that. Just because you never heard of it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
That's right. And you don't even know what exists out there, because it didn't, some stuff hasn't even been spoken about. And believe me, there's a lot of stuff out there that we are not black and white, and we are not all one. And we are all, just because you're gay doesn't mean you have to be gay or whatever that means. You know, it's like people need to start growing up. And I think we've lost maturity to understand differences are important. Differences in community. Individuals create a community, not community creates individuals. So we have to come at it as individuals, and then we create a strong community because we have all kinds of voices.
Right. I think that, again, I think that's so powerful. God, you're such a fascinating person. I could sit talking forever, but we're kind of at the end of our time. But I just want to say thank you. And do you have, I know you have a website, because I went to your website. What is the website?
Buckangel.com. You can pretty much find me all over the place. Buck Angel. My Instagram is Buck Angel. My Twitter is Buck Angel. And my Facebook is official Buck Angel. But I'm really not a big Facebook person.
And if people want some cannabis, they can get
pridewellness.net. Thank you for asking.
Of course.
Very sweet of you.
And if they want a trans toy, there are toys out there.
Buckangel.com, my friend.
There you go. My God. We'll plug everything, you know.
Excellent.
Again, I can't thank you enough. This was so fascinating. Thank you for being on the show. And best luck to you. We'll check back again.
Yeah, no, we'll hang out sometime for sure.
I would love that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Buck. And thank you, sorry, I cut him off. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Oh my God, this was such a fascinating show. Boy, I'm learning things on this show. The internet, you know, has some good information on it. I'm still exhausted. I gotta go take a nap because I'm an old man. All right, anyway, this was Billy Masters Live Thursday. Do not forget, we are going to have Frank DeCaro, Peppermint, and Miss Richfield direct from Provincetown. So you won't want to miss it. And we'll see you in 2 days. Take care. And just remember, if we're here, we're live. Bye, guys.